Well, everybody, I just want to draw our attention in for a moment as you're getting ready to eat your breakfast. So one of the things that we like to do each month as we gather together is not only do we have a devotional early in the morning, so most of you probably were here for that, but we're bright and early, or early before it's bright even, and but we get to dig into the Word and just allow God to speak into our hearts. Part of the purpose is to build connection here between men and build into our families. We're building each other up in order to care for our families and the people around us. But another part of this also is what's God doing in our world, in our lives, in our community, and He has something to say in us. And so another thing that we do at breakfast time is we hear a testimony. And this is just a story of what has happened in us. What has God been doing? And so really, this is a God story. We're going to hear about what's happened in my friend Ben Moore's life. We've been connected now for a little over a year. Have built a friendship. We worked at a place called Pulse Evangelism together. But he's got a pretty amazing story about what God has done in him. But this is really kind of looking at who's God in all of this and what has He done in us and in our lives. What's He doing through us, and what do we have as we're looking forward? Like, what can He be doing through us? So, with all of that said, I want to introduce Ben Moore.
Hey. Well, I would first of all start with honoring the space. This men's group, this breakfast has really, really blessed my life. Been a great staple, something every month that I'm really looking forward to, and really just get poured into so much. And it's such an incredible atmosphere. So thank you, Andy. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody who's putting in effort. Everybody making the food. It's all such a blessing. So really appreciate you guys. Got to honor Steve. Been a great mentor in my life. Very, very blessed to just have him as a voice, that guy to call. So get the honor out there. I want to start with prayer just to make sure that the Lord keeps me on track. So Lord, we just thank you so much for this time. Thank you so much for these brothers. Lord, I pray that you would guide my words. I pray that you would bring to mind the pieces of your story in my life that God would be edifying, honoring, and uplifting. And Lord, I pray that you would just use this space and use my words as a vessel for your Spirit, Lord. We praise you. Thank you for your will being done and your kingdom coming in Jesus' name. Amen. I got notes to try and keep me on pace. I'm going to start a timer here because Lord knows I need it.
Yeah, as you do that, one thing I'll just mention is that if you guys are considering sharing your story, we'd love to hear what God's been doing in your life. We want to keep it to about 15 minutes, just for attention spans. We know the world we live in. So, so take it away.
I'll start at the very beginning. I grew up in Longmont, Colorado. I'm the second youngest of 10 children. My family was very deeply involved at church, as far as my grandparents were elders of the church. My dad was the lead of the tech team for the whole church. It was a pretty decent sized church. So every Wednesday and every Sunday, I was there 3 to 4 hours early with everybody, the whole crew that's making that ship run. So I was very much in the environment, but home life looked very different. My father struggled pretty severely with anger issues and just self-control in general. And looking backwards, there's a clear emphasis that the Christianity that I saw practiced was a means to prop up your self-image, right? Who I saw at church was not who anybody else saw, or who I saw at home wasn't who anybody else saw at church. And so I always had this kind of yeah, God's probably real, just like somebody probably built this building. I don't have to doubt that. But around 5th grade, My parents got a divorce. My father had been unfaithful for roughly 20 years of their marriage, and my mom finally kind of found it out. And so in 7th grade, me and 3 of my siblings, we moved to Iowa. We're still kind of going to church, going to a local church there. But I was in the same heart posture as I was in Colorado. You know, my prayers probably looked like while I was hooping, like, hey, Lord, help me win this game. And then I didn't win the game, and it's like, you know, God might be real, but I don't know. I didn't feel it in that moment. Something that was also very prevalent in my family with my mother as well as my older siblings was being a stoner. I didn't even know what that meant growing up. I just always heard like, oh yeah, mom was a stoner, and it was like a funny thing. And then like, oh yeah, your older brothers are stoners. And then I moved to Iowa from Colorado, and everybody's like, do you smoke weed because you're from Colorado? And I'm like, I grew up there. I don't think I don't understand what this whole emphasis is of like, oh, you come from Colorado, so you must be a stoner. I'm in 7th grade, you know? But just hearing that all the time, it being very normalized. I had a cousin, when we moved to Iowa, we moved because we had some family there. And I had a cousin who, she was probably a junior or a senior at that time. And she was kind of somewhat selling weed. And so I had the opportunity, I had the environment of just like, hey, this is normal. And started kind of dipping my toes in with nicotine, with drinking, with smoking. And I remember talking with my homies, and we were all in the car. This was after we all chipped in and bought our first vape. And we're in the car and we go, hey, if anyone starts getting addicted, we're going to cut it off. We're going to cut them off. And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but 6 years later, and each and every single one of us was pretty heavy addicted. But I just started getting into that. It was fun. I didn't see any issue with it. And one of my best friends at the time was the pastor's son of the church we went to. And I sent him a video of me smoking, and his dad saw that video. And he just, you know, came up to me and my parents after church and wanted to have a respectful conversation. I had a real big like authority problem. I didn't like my dad, I didn't like my stepdad, I didn't like any man that was trying to tell me something about my life. And so I'm sure, I don't remember all the way. I'm sure he was very respectful, but I do know that I walked out and was just like, hey, I'm not having it. This really isn't that important to me. And my experience of Christianity was, it's not really something you live out, it's something you do on Sunday. You know, it's not a means of becoming something or changing or growing. It's a means of, and it's an excuse, you know? Well, yeah, I'm a broken person, but I go to church. So I didn't see any issue with, I thought that I can believe in God and not go to church. And so I walked out and I was like, hey man, it's not really for me. And I kind of just started wandering, searching for whatever the way was. I didn't really care. You know, I was just a young kid in high school. And I had 3 pillars that kind of kept me over the next 6 years after walking out of that church. It was athleticism. That was always like my thing, right? That was like how I got attention as a child. Second youngest of 10 kids, there's not a whole lot of attention going around. But, you know, being a young kid and, you know, having a 6-pack and being able to do pull-ups, like that was the only space where eyes are on Ben. You know, oh, look at this. Look at it. You can do like 8 pull-ups. Look at it. I would be brought out of church service by my dad to go show off abs. It was weird. It was kind of odd. But that was something that I always held as a piece of my identity, right? Athletics. And I think I get a little bit more into that. So let me get too far ahead of myself. The second thing was smoking, right? Nicotine, drinking, all that, like I said, did not get cut off when addiction started kicking in. It, you know, you just kind of start rolling into it, and it became something that was really controlling, me and all my friends our entire lives, like every single day after school, hey, the mission is how are we getting high tonight? Where can we come up with $15 to go get an eighth so that we can all smoke a little bit? And that was like every night. That was every day, all day, trying to figure out what we could do. That led further and further into worse situations. That same cousin of mine, she had connections with actual like mafia distribution, and so they started moving packs from California, and I was already feeling a little in over my head, and then things started getting seized by the police, and I backed out of that because that was a scary situation for me. And it came to a point where at the end of these 6 years, I was looking back, and unless I was on vacation and I physically couldn't get my hand on something, there wasn't a single day that I didn't get high. Wasn't a day of sobriety. And the third pillar during this time was the relationship that I was in from like freshman year up until a year after high school. And that relationship actually ended up being, when I look back, a great blessing to keep me out of a lot of things back then, because I wanted to maintain this, and she was a girl of, like hard worker, goal-driven, career-driven, right? She don't smoke, she don't drink, she don't do all that. And so I would downplay what I did, and it was a lot of lying, but also a lot of like, I'm not gonna go hang out with you guys because I know that I can't get away with that. And there was a lot of situations where the hand of God was actually really prevalent, where because I was hanging out in that relationship, I wasn't out with my friends and they'd get busted by the cops and a lot of legal trouble going on, or they'd get in a really bad car accident. And so that was really a grace that the Lord used to keep me in that time. But this all kind of came to a head at the Golden Gloves boxing tournament in 2023. I was serious about boxing. Like at my walkout, I said I was going to be a professional fighter. Just goofy. But I'd been training and competing for 5 years, and even though I was a massive stoner, and that was like, I made sure that I was prioritizing that in my life, I still was at practice 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, pursuing this career. And I got to Golden Gloves and trained my butt off for it, got there and lost by decision. And I had this like stark realization in my face of like, even when I win, I feel the same as when I lose. And when I win and I got a TKO, it's like there's no joy in that. There was no fulfillment in that. And obviously, there's no joy and fulfillment in losing. Like at least when I get the crap beaten out of me and I walk away with my hand up, it's like, okay, well, I got my hand raised. But I came to this place of like, I don't think I actually like hurting people. And I think that's a really bad skill set to have if you want to be a pro fighter. And so I had to like reevaluate and say, what am I going to do with my life? Like I am goal driven and I need a destination. I need a direction. So I began kind of like seeking that, but I knew it wasn't boxing. Simultaneously, this moment happened where I was just in my room and I was watching a video. I used to be more politically minded, and I was watching like a Michael Knowles video, and he's talking to a priest, a Catholic priest, about demons and stuff, and I just thought it was cool. And he asked him like something along the lines of, if God is real and the devil is real, and the devil's mission isn't to be worshipped, but just for you to not worship God, then why is he in everybody's faces? Why is all the dark stuff so much more prevalent now? And the priest just said something like very plain and simple, and he was like, I would start fouling if I knew the game was almost over too. And something in that moment like hit me in my chest, and I went, it was this like, oh, God is real and I'm playing games with him. And I had that moment months before. I was doing psychedelics with my family, and I remember right before we took the things, and right before anything happened, that same cousin who I was talking about, she's burning sage and she's talking about spirits, and I'm like, what am I doing right now? I remember thinking, if God is real, I am way off track. And the fear of God was like super heavy on me. And I thought in that moment, this Sunday I'm starting to go back to church. And then I got high. I forgot all about it. But that video comes up and that same feeling hits me. And I'm like, I really can't play games with this anymore. And something happened in that moment where I say that was the follow me moment. That was like Christ had walked by and I saw there's something different about him. And my heart of stone had been replaced for that heart of flesh. And there was still a lot of work to be done, but something had shifted where I had come alive for the first time in my life. And so I began seeking him. A few months go by. My girlfriend at the time couldn't stand it. Rightfully so. I'm like, hey, we need to stop playing games with God. We can't be watching these crazy TV shows. But then when it comes to other areas of sanctification, I'm cool. I'm not going to, let's not worry about that. And we went on a vacation here, actually, we came back, and I had this moment of prayer where I said, Lord, if you're real, and if you have a purpose for my life, I'm going to give it all to you, and I'll give you everything. He said, even that relationship? I said, even that relationship. And the next day, we were talking, she said, hey, we're done. You're talking about God too much, I can't take it. That started a journey for 9 months of like, God is real, and this means something for my life. And I cut out really all my community, and I was just spending the time with the Lord trying to find godly community. Heard about Pulse 100, which is a program at Pulse Evangelism where I work now. Applied kind of on a whim, didn't think I was eligible for it, not a good enough Christian, but somehow got in by the grace of God. I come up here and really was just wrecked by like this message of like, yeah, I haven't earned this. I haven't earned this space. I haven't earned this community. And that's the whole point is I couldn't, right? God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And I came back from Pulse 100. I knew I was going to move. I didn't know where yet. And the Lord was speaking, and I had plans of my own. And those plans kept getting shut down. Doors kept getting shut in my face. But the door to the Pulse internship opened up. And it was weeks, like two weeks before it would start. Hey, doors open, you can come. But you got to move. Obviously from Iowa to Minnesota. So the Lord called me here, and I got to see a really powerful example of like, a man makes plans in his heart, but the Lord directs his steps, right? Being here, there's a lot more to the whole Pulse story, but I'm already really close on time. By the grace of God, I got a job at Pulse and got surrounded by really incredible community. And then I was serving at a young adults community discipleship group, and met my now wife, and we instantly hit it off. I had plans there too that thank God they didn't happen. I mean, super short testimony on it. I had 6 different engagement plans. I set the date and said it's happening this day, and then the plan changed 6 different times. And the first time was a trash plan. It was a bad plan. But the last one, it just kept happening. Well, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. And we arrived at this plan where, like, genuinely, and I'll use Kayla's words. She said it was better than she could have imagined, right? And I know that I didn't make that happen because my plans sucked. And so I think that really has been the testimony of my walk and my journey with the Lord. Is I grew up thinking that if I don't do it, it doesn't get done. And, no support from parents financially and career-wise. It's like, yeah, if you're going to do something, you have to go do it. And I think there's a good sense of that, of working hard, of moving forward and not being a victim of your circumstances. But there's also a lot of pride in it. And that's something that the Lord has super consistently been wringing out of me, because when I look at the good things that I have in my life, my job, the community that I have, my marriage, all of it, like they're all things that I had a plan and that plan didn't work. And I wasn't capable, I wasn't prepared for it, but the Lord opened the door and the Lord blessed me with it. And so Steve, when we were talking about this testimony, he had one thing that he said I should really try and focus on, and that's, why is Jesus worthy of my worship, of our worship? And I think the most pivotal piece to that, the most important piece of like my story thus far, looking at my life, has been, it's not by my hand, it's not by my might. The sovereignty of God is genuinely something that I can't even comprehend. And his plans are good. His plans are better than mine ever could be. And that I don't have to fight for control. I think that was a big theme when I look at my time as a boxer. I wanted to control the moment, and I would see my dad gain control through power and through anger and strength, and I thought that was how I would control my life in the individual moments and in the life in general. It's just white knuckle it until I've got a hold on it. And the Lord has taught me a lot more of an open-handed approach in saying, I'm gonna go this direction, Lord, and I'm gonna let you direct my steps. But I know that, I don't steer the boat. I can row it, but I can't steer it. It's a growing process, for sure. The Lord's still working on it, but I can look at my life and say I truly live in a ridiculous blessing that I couldn't have imagined 3 years ago, with my community, with my work, and like I have an amazing marriage that I could not have fathomed, and Abner's family. This is my wife's brother, Abner. They're the greatest, one of the greatest blessings ever. I thought that getting married was just about the wife, but there's such a red flag about like, oh, hey man, watch out for the family, watch out for the in-laws. But it's like been the opposite. Like really just have so much in my life to be grateful for, and every single one of those things is attributed purely to the Lord's ways, not mine. So, yeah.